So today we'll be releasing some body-worn camera video, and what we'll be showing today is the first contact team. And a contact team is one of the first teams that goes into where there's an active shooter. And this team is made up of 2 sheriff's office personnel and 3 San Jose police officers, and they were the ones that first encountered the suspect. I also, even though it won't be shown in this video, I want to highlight the rescue task force that's part of our protocol. And basically, there were rescue task forces that went in that provided medical aid to the victims there at the scene, and then were able to carry them out to the warm zone where San Jose Fire Department actually goes into an area that may not be completely safe to provide further aid. We transported 2 victims to the hospital. Unfortunately, they succumbed to their injuries. First of all, this is such a devastating tragedy that it has impacted the lives of many. And my heart goes out to our VTA family, our ATU family, and everyone right now who is suffering. We'll never forget those innocent victims whose lives were taken by a crazed coward. The outpouring of support that I see in the community is really shows that we have a caring and compassionate community, and we are so appreciative of that. Keep in mind that we're releasing information as it comes up, and the investigation is still going. We have a lot of the forensic information back, but it's not totally completed. I want to talk briefly about the active shooter protocol that we have in this county. Lieutenant James Cannon, who's a lieutenant with us, had been in Colorado during the Columbine incident. When he came to work for us, he thought we need an active shooter protocol, a policy where all of law enforcement can train together, work together, and they know what their mission is. This was put into action, and you'll see in the video, it was put into action by the Sheriff's Office and San Jose police officers who hardly spoke a word to each other. They knew what their job was, they did their job, and actually then confronted the suspect that took his own life. This was a tragic loss of 9 people, and we all grieve. There were over 100 VTA employees on site that morning, and I believe the bravery of all of law enforcement personnel really prevented the loss of additional life. I've been told by our deputies and other law enforcement agencies that they're encountering more and more firearms in the field. This has to stop. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Aaron Simonson. He was one of the first people on the scene, and he served as the tactical commander during the incident. He'll tell you first what is going to be depicted on the video, so when you watch it, you'll have an idea of what's happening, what's unfolding, and we'll show the video, and then it will be immediately available on a YouTube link that we will provide to you. Lieutenant Simonson.
Good afternoon. As of this past Sunday at approximately 8:30 p.m., the Sheriff's Office crime scene investigators, in collaboration with the FBI's evidence response team, concluded the scene processing of the VTA bus yard. We now have additional information that helps illustrate the Sheriff's Office response and timeline of the events for this active shooter incident. What you are about to see is a body-worn camera footage from the very first contact team who developed a plan of action and made entry into the VTA yard in an attempt to locate the shooter in this incident. This team consisted of a sheriff's sergeant, a sheriff's deputy, and 3 San Jose police officers. The following timeline was verified after evaluating dispatch recordings, BWC footage, and surveillance video from the VTA yard. As Sheriff Smith has already indicated, the press information officer has sent out a link to this BWC footage and the timeline that I will be going over. Please contact the PIO if you have any problems with this link. On Wednesday, May 26th, At 6:34, 51 seconds in the morning, County Communications received their first call for service on this incident. At 6:35, 31 seconds, County Communications dispatched deputies to the VTA yard. About 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, the first deputy arrived on scene. About 10 seconds later, the sheriff's sergeant arrived on scene. So at 6:38 and 14 seconds, the sheriff's deputies advised dispatch that they heard shots being fired. The sergeant immediately formed a contact team to go into the VTA area. At 6:39:13, a VTA worker tells the sheriff's deputies that the suspect is armed with a handgun. The VTA worker goes on to state that the suspect was last seen in Building A. So at 6:39 and 50 seconds, the sheriff's deputy, sergeant, and the 3 San Jose officers develop a tactical plan and assemble their first contact team as they go into Building A at the VTA bus yard. Upon making entry into the VTA bus yard, they start moving towards Building A. They're moving towards the hot zone. A hot zone is an area where there's a direct and immediate threat that exists to the public. At 6:41:08, 2 shots are heard. The deputy on the contact team initially believes that those sounds were caused by the stepping of a metal roof that's on the floor. At 6:41:32, both the deputy and the sergeant hold the exterior stairwell that leads to the 3rd floor of Building A, and the contact team obtained some additional cover because there was no active stimulus going on. Active stimulus is going to be people screaming, shots being heard. At 6:41:58, the contact team moves up the stairwell. Due to tactical considerations, the sheriff's deputy and sheriff's sergeants take the lead and move up the stairwell because they have patrol rifles issued to them. At 6:42 and 22 seconds, the contact team reaches the top of the stairs. One of the San Jose officers hears through his dispatch, through San Jose's PD's dispatch, that shots are still occurring. However, according to that BWC, we cannot hear shots fired at that time. The deputy acknowledges that he heard the San Jose officer, and he replies that the team has to move smartly. About 15 seconds later, 10-15 seconds later, a VTA supervisor exits one of the doors at the top of the stairs. The deputy and sergeant, along with the officer, call for the employee to come back to their location. The VTA supervisor provides the contact team his key card to allow them to get into the building. The deputies guide the employee to the rear of the team while the deputy says, "Get behind me." At 6:43:09, the contact team makes entry into the 3rd floor. At 6:43:21, the contact team makes entry into the VTA dispatch center. So they went into one room, cleared that, then moved into the second room, which was the VTA dispatch center, and they start clearing the room. The purpose of clearing the room is to find victims, find people hiding, and to locate any suspects. The room is also cleared so that a rescue task force can come behind the initial contact team to assist any victims if they're located. As the contact team is moving through that dispatch center, 1 shot is heard. Another word for shot is stimulus, and you'll actually hear one of the officers say there's stimulus, and that shot is heard at 6:43:56. The team immediately recognizes the situation is still dynamic, and they drive towards the area of the gunshot. The contact team bypassed multiple rooms that were left uncleared to continue to the active threat. At 6:44:06, 2 additional gunshots are heard as they approach the exit doors to the dispatch center. A bullet hole can be seen in the window frame of the left door while watching the video. Evidence shows that 1 gunshot went through the door into the direction of the contact team. The investigation also revealed that the suspect had 2 self-inflicted gunshot wounds, which proved to be fatal. At 6:44 and 15 seconds, a deputy advises through the doors that the contact team sees a person down. The contact team continues past uncleared areas and moves towards that person. At 6:44:51, the contact team observes a gun in the injured person's hand. The contact team has to ensure that the person down is still not a continued threat to them. A few seconds later, that person is secured. It turns out to be the suspect. Once the suspect is secured, the officers continue searching for additional victims as they provide medical aid, What you're about to watch is a constant stream from the deputy on the contact team. The only redactions that are made are the identities of the San Jose police officers, the VTA employee, and ultimately the suspect. I must warn you that this video does contain some graphic footage.
Here is a photograph of the bullet hole.
Yeah, I got that white hat. That was the metal flooring. You got it up high? Hold this door, hold this door, hold this door. Hey, I'm holding that top. Hey, give us another unit over here. Sarge, come over here. Sarge. Sarge. Hey, get behind that engine block over there. Hey, go behind that engine block. Pull that door. Yeah, I got it right there. Go We're good. We gotta take this start. Hey, we need access to these doors. Hey, we just heard another fire shot down here. Hey, get your hands up! Hey. All right. Hands on your head. Turn around. Stand by. Back up. What do you got? I'm a supervisor. I hope that's big communication. Okay, come back. Are you going to open that door for us? I am. Give me your key card. Where's your key card at? Come behind me. Absolutely. We'll take it. Okay. This last, this one. We need a key card. I'm going to push up. Yeah, let's go. Okay. This door. Oh, this one's right here. Oh, really close. What window? How much? I'll swing it over. I'm going to swing it over. Yeah. I'm clear right. Come with me. Hold left. Okay. I'm clear right. Guys, push up. Hey, we need that key card over here, bro. All right, I'll push the key card, okay? Yeah. What's my name? Oh, shit. We just came to conference room. Okay. I got somebody down in front of me. 3, 5, 6, maybe. Let me see your hands. Hold right. Hold on. We got that stairwell. Sheriff's office. Yep. Oh, the gun, I see the gun is there. Okay, stand by. Let's just clear it off. Hold this. Come on, hold the body of the gun. Hey, I got somebody down here. Get the gun. Hey, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So as in the video, the gunshot that I disclosed is going to be in this window here. I'm sorry, right here in this window here. You can kind of see it there. Sorry, the photo just came back.
And put them on the podium here.
Okay.
And we believe that shot that went through the window casing was the first of the 3 shots. But that's preliminary right now because the crime scene people are not totally done. But we believe that was the first, and the next 2 shots where he shot himself once under the chin, it wasn't fatal, and then in the side of the head.
All right. At this time, I'm going to open this up to any questions.
Sheriff, what's the reason for releasing at this stage?
You know, I mentioned that, yes, yeah. I mentioned earlier that we were very, very proactive after the Columbine in changing tactics where law enforcement does not stage outside until a SWAT team gets there. We immediately go in. Even if it's just 1 deputy, we'll go in. In this case, we had 5 on the first contact team. I think it's a tribute to all law enforcement in Santa Clara County that we've trained together. You saw how the sheriff's office in San Jose worked as a team without any words. I thought it was important to show that this protocol, I believe, saved lives. There are over 100 people in that area. He had a lot of additional ammunition and had most likely set the fire at his house before. It really is to highlight what we do and what the officers really face. Fortunately, not on a daily basis, but they're willing to risk their lives going in there knowing that other people can be saved. And I think that's an important message for the people in Santa Clara County to know about the quality of law enforcement that we have.
Sheriff, is there any indication that Cassidy knew that the deputies and the police officers were in the building before he took his life? Was he aware of that?
I don't know the answer to that. We suspect so. You saw we had the flashlights when they were clearing that room, and you saw the person with the body-worn camera say clear right, because there was not a lot to the right. The left was wide open, and they were going through that methodically until the shot was fired. You heard us yelling sheriff's office, but that was afterwards. But we had been verbal all the way through, yelling. There were other contact teams getting ready to go into other parts of the building. I would believe he either heard us or saw the flashlights through the windows that he apparently had shot through. I believe so.
Sheriff, can you talk about the kind of courage it took to walk into that building hearing shots going on?
Exceptional, extraordinary.